What's happening, everyone? It's the Football Therapist. Today, bringing you an important topic, NFL holdouts for the 2020 season. We already have Dalvin Cook holding out. Joe Mixon could potentially be holding out. Other running backs I've seen rumored on Twitter, no confirmation. But what does it all mean? We're going to break down the new CBA rules today. We're going to tell you why this CBA makes it harder for these running backs to hold out and why it may not matter to these running backs. So we're going to begin talking about the money side of things with the fines. I felt that was a very good starting point. This is a very complicated situation, so I'm going to try to break it down as best possible. I incorporated a picture here from an article from Rotoworld. I thought it was very well written, and this is how we're going to try to understand it. So looking at fines in regards to Dalvin Cook and potential future running backs or players who may want to hold out. Clubs have the right to give an exercised fifth-year option if a player was drafted in the first round. If a player was drafted in the first round and they have that exercised fifth-year option and they decide to hold out, that player will be subject to a harsher fine. It'll be up from $40,000 to $50,000. So let's say in this situation, if Dalvin Cook was exercised the right and he was going on his fifth year of his contract, then the Vikings have the opportunity to fine him $50,000 every day that he does not fail to report or get permission by the team. That's a big word there, permission, because if he gets permission by the team not only doesn't have to fine him, but it gives them an out, in my opinion. That is the first thing to look at with this situation. Obviously, teams are not going to give players permission, but that was in the clause. There is the word permission. Also, as you can see here, the Vikings do have the right to waive any fines since he is on his rookie contract. So if they feel that he's going to return at any point, they have the option to waive all those fines. Now, since Cook is not going on that fifth year and he's only going into his fourth year of his contract, he will be fined $40,000 a day for not showing up to training camp or for the season. So that is the first thing when looking at this holdout situation and potentially other holdout situations. So now we're going to break down the actual holdout clause that is causing people to get confused. And again, I have the article, picture of the article here by Rotoworld. Very well written article. I've looked into the CBA, and this is what it says from my interpretation. 1, the player has to report to the start of training camp. So whatever day that team has that mandatory training camp day, you have to report to the team that day, or you will lose your season. So essentially, if Dalvin Cook is not there by day 1, he becomes a restricted free agent. Now, if he does report, he still has the option to hold out. So if he goes to training camp, the most that he can miss is up to 5 days of unexcused time. So that again goes back to that permission statement. If he gets permission, which of course he's not going to get because he's holding out for a contract, then it changes a little bit. He doesn't have that permission, so he cannot miss more than 5 days of camp, or he will become a restricted free agent. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we can see this happening all year if he wants to. That's the first part of things. If he reports one day here and there, he does not become a restricted free agent. And as it says in the Rotoworld article and the CBA, you could do this for at most 10 games into the season. So he can hold out for 10 games technically if he holds out this way. That essentially means that his season is almost lost in terms of fantasy relevancy, by week 10, you don't really want to have a guy on your roster sitting out that long. It's just waste a roster spot, and you're using a high draft pick on him. So that's the first thing. There's also the thing, if he becomes a restricted free agent, he could pretty much again return any time up to that 10-week season. And yes, he is a restricted free agent, but that doesn't mean a team can't make him an offer. So that's one of the things where people say he loses the season, yes, but he still could potentially get a contract in the offseason. Again, it's not in his best interest to go that route because the team could lowball him and then the Vikings could match it and then he's stuck with the Vikings on that contract. So I don't think he'll go that route. But in terms of the long-term picture with these teams, these running backs, it could happen where people just say, I don't care if I'm a restricted free agent. I want a contract or I'm not playing. So essentially, he becomes a free agent. A team can make him an offer. And if the Vikings can't match that, then he's on a new team and he gets a new contract. So it's very risky at this point for Dalvin Cook to go that way. And again, I'm waiting to see what he does at the start of training camp. If he doesn't report at the start of training camp and he gets that restricted tag, then I'm becoming a little bit concerned because he already has that restricted tag. What's stopping him from not holding out further into the season? If he does report, then that's when we get into the, okay, how many days in a row is he going to miss? Is he going to report back to the team? We just have to stay on top of it on a week-by-week basis. And if he does that and it goes into the season, then I'm more concerned because then that means that he's not going to become a restricted free agent. He hasn't met that 5-day maximum and he has shown up here and there sporadically. And then he has the opportunity to come back week 8, week 10, week 6, whenever he wants to. And then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. And of course, in terms for the Vikings, that's what you don't want. But as a fantasy football owner, you also don't want that because you don't want that uncertainty. So again, it's still very early, but that's just me breaking down the CBA the way I see it. I think that there's a ton of risk if you're drafting right now. Hold off until after training camp to see how this situation and future situations work out. And thank you guys for watching the video. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week.